All right, Bailey, are you good to start?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to the webinar today. Our topic today is exercise, immunity, and COVID. And we think it's a really relevant topic given that we are just out of the first wave, but it looks like we're entering the second wave. So, um, and we're just out of a lockdown. And so we want to know, is there a place for exercise in all of this? That's kind of what we want to tackle today. Okay. A few housekeeping things before we start. So for those of you who've been to our webinars, you know that we record and we also live stream everything. So please be aware of that. And also please mute yourself as well. Of course, you all appreciate that this is for educational purposes only. So before you apply any of these things, please speak with your healthcare provider before attempting any of this information. We want to take your questions, so and we'll take it at the end of the talk. So as the talk is going, please put your questions in the chat box, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. Okay. This webinar put on by two organizations, Lifestyle is Medicine, which is a non-for-profit organization based in Toronto, and we put on lifestyle medicine programming for the community. We do webinars. Pre-COVID, we did dinner with the doctor events and other programs where we try to promote lifestyle medicine to the community. And Pathways to Wholeness is a naturopathic clinic based in Toronto. Today, the webinar is going to be given by myself. So I'm Dr. George Cho, a naturopathic doctor in the Toronto area, also a certified exercise physiologist with the Cleveland Clinic, Canada. And we also have Bailey Muller as well. And she's a personal trainer, and she'll be co-presenting with me. All right. Okay. So for many people, for the past few months, they spent a time like this. We were told to shelter in place and to kind of lock down, and that meant for a lot of people that they're just staying at home and being sedentary. In fact, studies do show that the physical activity levels across the globe has dropped dramatically. This was a very interesting study they did during lockdowns, the COVID-19 lockdowns, and they looked at this particular popular app that counts your steps. As you can see here, right about the time where most countries instituted lockdowns, you can see that the number of steps has dramatically decreased. As you can see, the graph drops down quite precipitously. This is America as well. You can see right around the time where lockdowns were happening that the number of steps dropped. Okay, so it's safe to say that lockdowns because of COVID have been very sedentary time for at least for most people, including Canadians. Now, this is very interesting research came out on young people in Canada. This is very alarming. So there's something called the physical activity guidelines. And when you look at, so basically that talks about how much physical activity people should be getting. And right now, among children, only 30% of boys and less than 20% of girls are meeting those guidelines. This is among children 5 to 11 years old. Now, what's startling is among youth, so these like teenagers, the numbers drop even more. So you can see only 11.4% of girls, teenage girls, are meeting physical activity guidelines. And surprisingly, only around 15% of boys, of teenage boys. This is during COVID lockdowns. So really what we can say is that, already the physical activity levels of Canadian youth was abysmal, but during COVID lockdowns, it got even more abysmal. Okay. And is this good? I think we could all agree it's not. All right. So the what we want to ask today is, should I exercise even during lockdowns, even during coronavirus? And is it worth it? If I go out, I can, maybe get the virus. So is it worth it? Is it actually going to help my immune system? That type of thing. And I believe that the answer is yes. All right. I believe that there's compelling evidence to suggest that physical activity would actually be very, very beneficial for your immune system. And I want to share with you what exercise does for our immunity and give you an appreciation for the way that our bodies are designed, and hopefully inspire you all to exercise and also to encourage others to exercise as well. And then Bailey is going to get into the more specifics on how to get started. Okay. So should we exercise? Well, this is the American College of Sports Medicine. This is one of the most prestigious, most reputable exercise science bodies in the world. And this is what they say regarding COVID-19 lockdowns and physical activity. This is what they say. During this pandemic, it is essential for those who with normal health and chronic disease. So notice, even those with chronic disease, to activate, maintain, and advance physical activity to 30 to 60 minutes most days of the week within the confines of social distancing. So you have here a very reputable exercise science research body saying very clearly that even during lockdowns, during COVID-19, during this pandemic, that it is essential to be physically active. Why would they say that? Well, exercise does a lot of different things that are very beneficial for us. So first, it increases the number of our immune cells. So you have two different types of immune cells. You have CD8 positive T cells, so your T cells, and then natural killer cells. Exercise will increase the number of these cells quite dramatically. So the number of T cells will go up by almost 3x, threefold. Now, the number of natural killer cells will actually go up almost tenfold. Okay, isn't that amazing? So you're basically recruiting more soldiers, deploying more soldiers into your army by exercising. Okay. Now, natural killer cells have a very interesting way of operating. So you have here on your left, you have here the SARS-CoV-2 virus, the virus that causes COVID-19. And on the right, you have the natural killer cell. Now, natural killer cells, they do two things to destroy viruses. First, they secrete something called perforin, which breaks down the viral wall. And then it releases granzyme to destroy the DNA, which basically incapacitates the virus, all right? Now, what's interesting is that there's two main types of natural killer cells. There's the bright and then there's the dim cells, okay? And the dim cells are more cytotoxic, which means that they're more effective. You can say they're better at killing things, all right? So the dim cells are really, really effective against viruses. Now, what's very interesting is that exercise increases the number of dim cells, of dim natural killer cells, right? So that's very fascinating that when you exercise, not only are you increasing the number of your immune cells, but you're increasing the number of the types that actually are really effective at killing pathogens, all right? So the way I like to put it is, if you had an army of regular soldiers, that's great, but we would all agree that having special forces is even better, right? And so what exercise does, it increases the number of special forces rather than just your regular soldier. Okay, so that's the way that you can kind of think about it, which I think is quite fascinating. Okay. Now, how do these immune cells get recruited? Okay, so here you have you have your immune cells. So lymphocytes is just a type of immune cells. It's a group of immune cells, and they're kind of hanging out on the sides of the blood vessel wall. Okay, now as we all know, when you exercise, you release adrenaline or epinephrine. What's interesting is that immune cells has receptors for epinephrine. And when you exercise, the epinephrine increases, and then what it does, it releases the immune cells into circulation. So do you see that? Okay, so exercise releases epinephrine, and then epinephrine binds to the immune cells, and which makes the immune cells dislodge from the wall and into circulation. Okay, and of course, when you exercise, you increase shear force, so your blood pressure, the blood flow increases, which then helps dislodge the immune cells into circulation. Okay, so as you can see here, see the numbers go up, okay, of natural killer cells of your immune cells. Now, what's interesting is that some of you might be looking at this and you're saying, well, how come the numbers are going down? Okay, do you see that? So first, the numbers of immune cells goes up, but then as you can see, it starts to go down. So you're probably like scratching your head, wondering, that doesn't look like a good thing. We want it to stay up. How come it's going down? Maybe exercise isn't that great. Well, check this out. When you exercise, you release your immune cells, but it's very interesting. Now, scientists have discovered that these immune cells, they actually go into your bloodstream, but then soon afterwards, they get out of your bloodstream and into your peripheral tissues, like the gut and the lungs. Okay, now that's very fascinating because where does most of the viruses and the pathogens enter our body? Is in the gut and the lungs, right? So which is really, really interesting that our bodies are designed that when we do something good like exercising, not only does it increase the number of immune cells, but it actually redeploys them to areas where where the battle's happening, right? Because it's no good to just have soldiers hang around in the barracks. You could have as many soldiers as you want, but if they're not in the battlefield, it's pretty useless, right? So that's exactly what's happening with exercise. When you exercise, you increase not only the number of cells, but they're getting redeployed to areas where the fight is fierce. Okay, so this is why you see the increase and then you see the drop. Okay, because they're leaving the blood and going into your peripheral tissues, which is where they should be, which I think is really, 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 really fascinating and a testament to how wonderfully our bodies are designed. Okay, now it's very interesting. Exercise also helps keep our immune system young. All right, so when you exercise, it actually makes the older T cells die off. Now you might be thinking, well, that doesn't sound like a good thing. Why would you want your immune cells to die off, right? But the interesting thing is that it actually helps keep your immune system young. So when your T cells, when they die off, the older ones, it releases these particles called apoptotic bodies. Now, what do these guys do? Well, your bone marrow contains stem cells, right? And if you might all know that stem cells eventually become mature cells. So in your bone marrow, you have hematopoietic stem cells, which then mature into immune cells. Okay, it's very interesting because these apoptotic bodies, they stimulate stem cells to mature into immune cells. So what's happening is the older senescent T cells die off, but then that stimulates the formation of new, younger immune cells. So in this way, those who are physically active might actually have a younger immune profile compared to those who are very sedentary. I think that's very, very fascinating. All right, so you can see here, when you're sedentary, the level of the age of your immune system is higher, and the more active you are, the age you become young, the immune system is younger, at least relatively. Now, to close off here, I want to talk about something called cytokine storm. So with COVID-19, people die often because of this process called cytokine storm. Okay, and so what is cytokine storm? Well, you have in the red, you have a virus. Okay, it could be COVID-19, it could be any other type of virus, and you got the green thing here, which is a immune cell. When your immune cell detects a virus, it releases cytokines, okay? And then cytokines stimulate other immune cells to get into the fight, okay? You're recruiting more immune cells. Now, as you could imagine, cytokine storm is when you have too many cytokines, which activates more immune cells, okay? Now, some of you might be thinking, well, that's odd because wouldn't that be a good thing? Like, wouldn't it be good to have more immune cells? How could having more immune cells actually be bad for your immune system, right? Like, why would people die from having too many immune cells? Well, one way to think about it is to think about it in this way. So in most cases, and of course, we know that because of social issues that are happening in the States, this might not be the best example, but I think you all get the general point, okay? In most cases, when the police get involved, there's not that much collateral damage, right? And there might be a few bullet holes, some things might get damaged and so forth, but overall, the damage isn't too much, right? However, when there's total war, when the military gets involved, I think we would all agree that like there's gonna be a lot of collateral damage, right? Like bombs are gonna go off, tanks are going bomb, just there's gonna be so much damage, right? This is kind of what we're talking about here. So when your body activates cytokine storm, you have an overreaction of the immune system, which leads to collateral damage. So as you can see here, when a virus enters, it activates a lot of immune cells, which then they start to damage even healthy lung cells, okay, which then leads to difficulty breathing, fluid starts to build up and so forth. And this is actually one of the main mechanisms why people die. Okay, so the virus starts the process, but as it's actually your own immune system that actually kills the people, which is kind of sad. Okay, but that's the truth. Okay, so now you might be thinking then, well, we just said that exercise stimulates more immune cells. So wouldn't then exercise just lead to cytokine storm, right? If you're thinking that way, that's really good. That means that you're really following along here. Okay, but it's actually not the case. Okay, so check this out. When you exercise, you do release cytokines, which then does release a lot of immune cells. Okay, but at the same time, when you exercise, you actually release also anti-inflammatory cytokines. Okay, so like interleukin 10, for example, which is an anti-inflammatory effect, which is it kind of regulates the immune system. So you activate your immune system, but the response is more regulated. Okay, whereas for people who die from COVID-19, you activate your immune system, but there's an overreaction. It's not a regulated response. But exercise does not have that effect. It's actually a more regulated immune response. Okay. So way to think about it is, on the left you have a bunch of just Rambo militia guys. So if you have for example, if you have a hostage situation, would you rather have a bunch of Rambos or would you have the SWAT team, right? A bunch of Rambos probably they might just cause a lot of collateral damage, right? They're not really coordinated. They're just gonna do their thing. But the SWAT team is really they're trained, they know what they're doing, their systems, they're really well regulated. The level of collateral damage is probably not going to be that much, okay? And the effectiveness is going to be much higher with the SWAT team, okay? So this is what's happening with exercise. When you exercise, yes, you do recruit lots of your soldiers, but the response is much more regulated, okay? So this is why exercise is really, really beneficial, okay? So this is why when scientists have looked at the data, those who exercise actually have lower risk of respiratory infections, all right? Now, it's not good to do too much. As you can see here, the graph goes up, okay? But that's with heavy exertion. So we're talking about like marathons and like triathlons and ultra marathons and stuff like that. But that's not what we're encouraging you to do. Going for a walk for an hour a day, run for an hour a day, that kind of stuff is actually very beneficial, okay? Now to close off here, just a few final thoughts. They're talking about a vaccine that's going to come out, right? And maybe some of you want to take it, some of you don't. That's your choice. But did you know that studies actually show that exercise actually enhances the effectiveness of vaccines? So here, this is a study from 2013. The researchers, they say, we argue that the changes induced by acute exercise prepare us for challenge, including antigen challenge, such as vaccination, producing a state of improved readiness. So with the vaccine, yes, you can take the vaccine, but your immune system ultimately has to mount the response. Okay, so it's not like your immune system is just passive. It has to mount a response. And so when you exercise, you actually prepare your immune system to actually effectively respond to the vaccine. Okay, so those of you, if you're so inclined to take the vaccine, this might be something to really consider. Okay. All right. So just some closing thoughts before I hand it off to Bailey. This is a group of researchers. Look what they say. We argue that not enough public emphasis is yet put on the importance of regular physical activity during confinement. Beside the well-known advantageous effects of regular physical activity on all-cause mortality, and in particular morbidities considered as risk factors for severe COVID-19 disease outcome, as well as immunological benefits of physical activity, its immediate mood-enhancing, stress alleviating, and long-term mental health improving effects are of the highest relevance for the current social situation. So basically what they're saying here is that, there's so many benefits to physical activity, and during even times of confinement, it's really, really relevant that we promote physical activity, okay? Faced with the possibility of new pandemics by previously unknown microorganisms, without totally effective prevention measures, vaccines, or specific treatments, the host organism's capacity against infections becomes the most important line of defense, thus emphasizing the importance of investing in lifestyle habits that promote health and well-being, such as the practice of physical activity. So basically what they're saying here is that, look, there's going to be new pandemics. Okay, if you think that this COVID-19 is the last pandemic, well, that's foolishness, right? There is going to be more pandemics, and basically what they're saying here is that there might be no vaccine. There's going to be no effective treatments. So the most important thing that you have is your own immune system, and so making sure you have an optimal immune system is really important, and exercise is really critical for that. That's what they're saying. All right, and I agree. If when you look at the science, this is certainly the case. Exercise has wonderful, critical benefits for your immune system. Okay, so with that, I'm gonna hand it off to Bailey, who's gonna talk about just practical ways for you to start getting physically active. And I want to encourage you, if you have questions, to put it into the chat box, and we'll get to the questions as soon as Bailey finishes. So Bailey, I'll let you share your screen, and you can take it off from there.
Thank you so much. Let's just get set up here. All right. Thank you for sharing about how important exercise is, and it's going to go right into the fact that you will reap the benefits of exercise if you stick with it. And we need to change our mentality from just sticking with it to realizing that it's actually something that we want to do. So, you might find it interesting, but 40 to 60% of what you do every single day, depending on which studies you read, is habitual, which means you don't even think about it. So our goal then is to try to make it so that exercise becomes a habitual part of our life. An example of that would be when you're driving a manual car, you're not thinking about, okay, now I'm gonna change into this gear, put in the clutch, brake, check my mirrors, do my lights. And that's the point we want to get with exercise as well. So we don't want it to be something that we dread. And I know for some of us, and I was like this too, exercise becomes a bad word almost. You think of, someone tells you, oh, we should exercise, and you're thinking of the worst thing possible. Maybe that for you is taking weights and doing a really monotonous arm workout, or maybe for you the worst thing possible would be running for hours on end. And I can resonate with that for sure. So we need to try to recalibrate our idea of exercise. And one of the most common excuses that people give about exercising is, well, my schedule is so rigid. I have, so many things I need to do in a day and I just don't have time. So, how can we make exercise fit? And one of the biggest things is remembering why this is so important. And like Dr. Cho shared, it is so critical for our longevity, for our immunity towards COVID. Even more so, it's important for our energy, our mood, even our weight. There's so many things that come into play with exercise. So remembering the why. Why are you starting? Or why have you already started for those who have some kind of routine already? And what goals do you have? And some of these goals may be, I just want to be able to play with my kids and grandkids and not get tired. Or I want to hike a mountain. Or just general immunity, cheerfulness, whatever it is, keep that in mind as we work on building this habit and bringing it into our schedule, which is my second point. We need to make it an intentional part of our day. And if it's not intentional, you won't do it. Maybe you've gone to bed at night before and okay, tomorrow I'm gonna go to the gym. And then tomorrow happens and you never make it to the gym. And more often than not, it's because it actually wasn't scheduled into your day. So for some people, that's going to look different. Maybe it's going to be right after work. You get out of the office or you close your computer for the day at home and you head straight to the gym or straight to your basement and start working out. Maybe for others like myself, the morning is the best time. It's before you have any distractions, maybe before your kids get up, and that works best for you. But scheduling is super important. To help you kind of get a better idea of this, I want you to picture your day like a jar full of rocks. And we have big rocks and little rocks in our day. For some of us, we will be able to make exercise a big rock of our day. So we can schedule that 30 minutes, that hour block, and that is going to be a stable spot in our schedule every single day of the week. It'll always be at 6 a.m., it'll always be at 5:30 p.m. Things in our schedules that are solid and immovable, those are the big rocks. Other examples would be your work is a big rock, taking your kids to school, appointments, etc. So how should that block of time look? Well, we do know that we should be exercising approximately 150 on the low end to 300 minutes a week of moderate to vigorous intensity. So on the side here, I have some examples of moderate intensity and vigorous intensity. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through all of them. You can read them there. But essentially with moderate intensity, you'll be able to talk. So if you're doing it with a partner, you'll be able to talk, but you won't be able to sing. And that's how you'll know I'm in a moderate intensity zone. And if you're in the vigorous intensity zone, you're not going to be able to talk or sing. You're going to be trying to catch your breath. And a lot of these are good examples of vigorous intensity. So if you're a big rock kind of person, you want to slot it in, and the more consistent you are with that time, the faster that habit will be formed. And maybe you're a little rock person, so you have your big rocks in there, and that's your schedule, your kids, your everything, and you only have the fringes of your day, all these little rocks filling in the spaces. These little rocks, in a practical sense, can look like travel time, maybe the time you spend on social media, um, television, whatever it is. So, can we make exercise a little rock in your schedule and fit it in where you can? So, here's where I want to take exercise and kind of redefine it a little bit so it doesn't sound like to the little rock people, oh, I don't have a block of time. Exercise can essentially be redefined as moving more with greater functionality. And I saw this video on Instagram and I thought it was really great. Hopefully it works here. Let's see. Always move functionally. And I think this is great for little rock people. So you'll see he's making everything a little more work. Common things we do every day. And I'm not saying we have to go to this excess, but it gives you a little idea of ways you can move more with more functionality. We don't have to be as exaggerated, of course. But what this can look like for you is maybe while you're waiting for your kids, you're picking them up from school, you're walking around the school, walking around the block. Maybe when you're watching TV with your family, if that's a chunk of time that can't, be a little flexible, every commercial, you're getting up and you're going for a walk. You're going to get something done in the house. You're doing a chore. You're going to go take out the garbage. Maybe you're in line at a grocery store and you're doing calf raises with your cart because you're waiting. It's the idea of exercise we should redefine as just moving more, and maybe that'll help us incorporate more into our day. The let's see if I can, there we go. The third point in building our habits is finding an accountability partner. I know for me, I love working out with other people. Whether that's I'm helping someone reach their goals, or someone's working alongside me and challenging me. It's just a really great feeling. They're there to check in with you. When those days you just don't feel like going, you know that they're going. And so you have that, oh, okay, I have to go because they're going. So if you can find an accountability partner, you're less likely to make excuses. And finally, what works for you? What do you enjoy? And the key component with any exercise routine is going to be sustainability. And what I mean by that is, I may like weight training. I may love going to the gym and lifting those dumbbells and using those chest press machines. But another person may absolutely dread that. But they love spin class, or they love going on the elliptical, or whatever it is. Maybe if running 3 days a week isn't really your jam, then that's not the right plan for you. We need to find a plan that we can stick with, that we'll enjoy. And that said, we need to remember not to neglect the other areas of exercise. If you love running, you should not only be running, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So again, here are the 4 points of building habits. Remember the why, schedule it into your day, pull out your calendar, what works, pull out your schedule and say, okay, what kind of rock is it? What am I dealing with here? So there are different varieties of exercise that I want to talk about really briefly. There's stability and flexibility type conditioning, and this improves your coordination, your body coordination. So when you're doing some of these more dynamic moves, it's going to help you not fall over or trip over yourself. It aids in muscle recovery and increases range of motion. And flexibility training, and another way we refer to it is stretching, is so important before and after exercising. We need to not injure ourselves. I've made that mistake before. I've pulled my hamstring, and it is so painful, and the recovery time it's just not worth it. So make sure you're doing your flexibility and stability stretches, core strengthening, Pilates. The second, which is often the most thought about when exercise comes to mind, is cardio. So that would be running, walking, biking, just continuous movement. And another modality would be HIIT, high intensity interval training. And this is something I really enjoy. Not everyone does, but it's short bursts of maximum exertion, maybe for 20 seconds, and then 10 seconds of either rest or minimal exertion. So that might look like doing burpees for 20 seconds and then walking in place for 10 seconds. So there's aerobic, and then lastly, the 3 main ones. The last is strength and resistance training. So this is going to increase power and muscle strength. You can do it weighted, or there's the body weight type resistance strength training. And either way, you will increase your endurance and your muscles will get stronger. Do what works for you, and what you have available in your home. If you're not able to go to the gym anymore, and if we do get another lockdown with COVID, we'll be back at home again. Use what you can in the house. If you have a water bottle, use that as your weight. If you have a child, do your squats holding your kid. Get creative. So now I'm going to give you a little, now that you have this framework, I'm going to show you what an average week for me looks like in particular. So on Sunday, I have the most time generally, which is why I do both strength and aerobic exercise on Sunday. For you, that may be a different day. Like I said, pull out your calendar. We're going to look at this together. But the day you have the most time, make sure you actually schedule that block because you're most likely to actually get it in. And then the rest of the schedule is pretty straightforward. Separating the muscle groups that you're working so that they have rest days is really crucial for recovery of your muscles. So my arms are spread out apart and my legs are spread out apart. And Saturday, I do a rest day. It's really important for your body to have time to fully recover. So I definitely recommend resting at least one day a week and 2 times a week if the exercise program is a little new for you. So now we'll take a little bit of time and break down maybe some examples of exercises. So I have here an example of a HIIT, high intensity interval training workout. So I would do my warm up. It's generally about 5 minutes, doing each warm up activity for 30 seconds. And what that might look like is walking on the spot, doing some jumping jacks. If I'm specifically working on my arms, I'm going to do arm stretches, holding for 30 seconds, making sure that those muscles are warmed up and ready to do the intense work. So here I have 6 groups, and each group has 2 exercises. So what that would look like is I'm going to do, if I were to do this, I would do 20 seconds of jumping jacks, a 10-second break, and then 20 seconds of walk down push-ups. So that's, you're standing, you're walking down, doing a push-up, and then walking back up to your feet and standing again. And then I would do, it says A, B, A, B, A, B format. So I would do that group 3 times through, which ends up, the workout will take probably, if I do, probably about 24 minutes, something like that. And then with your warm-up cool down, you're looking at about half an hour. Take a break between the 3 groups, but try to push through doing those 3 groups in one block if you can. Remember, you have those 20-second breaks in there, so really try to get your heart rate down between those movements. And at the end, I would do a cool down and stretch. You don't want to leave that lactic acid in your muscles. You want to release that by stretching. So, and it will actually help you not be as sore tomorrow. Yeah. Oh, one more note I do want to make on that now that it came to mind. If you do a workout, if you're starting a exercise program from scratch, don't kill yourself the first day or even the first week. If it's getting to the point where you're doing a workout one day and the next day you are you're struggling even getting out of a chair, you're not going to want to work out on day 2. So that becomes an issue because then you're working out maybe every other day or every 3 days. So work out to the most you can without compromising day 3 and 4. And again, we want to make this sustainable. So if you're giving 150% every single day, within a couple weeks, you're going to be like, man, I just can't do this anymore. This is exhausting. So move with functionality. Understand that some days you're going to be tired. You had a late night with your kids. You had a late night at work, whatever it may be. And the next morning you're just shot. So maybe you had scheduled a HIIT routine like this, but you can't do that. And you need to listen to your body. And if that's the case, switch it up. Maybe you're going to do a stretching routine that day, but really listen to your body. A strength training example would be, this is a total body focus. So if you're wanting to hit every part of your body, this is one way you can look at it. So you would do arms and you would choose one exercise. And maybe for you, that would be a bicep curl, just to be simple. So if you do low repetitions, so a low number of full range of motion movements with a heavy weight, the heaviest you can handle, you're going to be building more muscle mass. Whereas if you do more repetitions with a lighter weight, it'll be creating more lean muscle and more endurance. So feel out what your goals are, body composition wise, and even how much time you have. Um, and then I would do this either, you can choose, it's really flexible. You can do arms, core, legs, cardio, and then do that 3 times, or you can do arms 3 times, core 3 times, legs 3 times, cardio 3 times. I definitely would recommend going through the whole thing and then doing that 3 times to give yourself rest type periods, but whatever works for you. We want to focus on range of motion. So when you're doing your bicep curl, you're not going quick. The point isn't to get it done as fast as possible. The point is to make sure that you're engaging the muscle through the whole thing and not using momentum to work it. You want to actually get those muscles activated. And lastly, I want to give you an example of more localized focus day. So if I was doing arms, you have your opposing muscle groups that you're going to target, like an ABAB format, like the HIIT was. So you would do your bicep curls. And if you're at home, you're going to find things around the house, but make sure you're using the same weight on both arms, and you're not using a milk jug in one and then you're using a cucumber in the other. You want to make sure that that's even. So you would do your bicep curl, and then you would go straight into your tricep kickbacks, working that opposite muscle, and then go back to your biceps and back to your triceps. That's called a superset. And again, the same thing applies. If you do more repetitions, you're going, and using a lighter weight, you'll have more lean as opposed to lower repetitions with a greater weight, you'll have more mass. Yeah. So that's just a few examples. And again, you need to work with what you will enjoy and what you'll stick with. So if HIIT isn't your thing, but you really enjoy walking your dog, I want to encourage you to go use those HIIT days and go walk your dog briskly so that your heart rate gets up. And again, one of the ways you can test that out is if you can't sing, that's a good thing. If you can't talk and sing, then you're definitely in that vigorous mode. But that's all I have to share. I think we're going to open up to questions and answers now, if I'm correct.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks so much, Bailey.
Mhm.
For those of you here, this is being recorded and live streamed, so you can go back to our Facebook page or to our YouTube channel. You can actually kind of go back and review the stuff that we shared, especially what Bailey shared, and to kind of get a sense of, to kind of go review what she's saying. So thanks so much, Bailey. That was excellent.
Mhm.
So we do have some few questions, and we'll try to get to them as many as we can. And if you have questions, just continue to type it in, and we will try to get to as many. We will stop at 5:30 though. Okay. So we have a question here by Pauline. Is it good to take the flu vaccine also? Um, this is, it's an individual choice. I think everyone needs to make a choice. I personally don't take the vaccine. You can if you want. I think what I try to personally do is just to make sure I'm living healthy, eating healthy, and exercising, sleeping well, things like that. So, but I'm not necessarily opposed to getting the vaccine either. So, but what I would say is that if you are just depending on the vaccine and not living healthy, I think that's a little bit misguided. So, I don't know, Bailey, if you have any comments on that.
No, you got it.
Okay. Well, thank you that's a great question. We got a question here from Zenny. So thank you, Zenny, for being here. How important to maintain, restore, nurture, and rejuvenate the cells of our bodies? Well, I guess it's very important. And we discussed today one of the ways to, when it comes to your immune cells, one of the ways to do that is actually exercising. So we talked about how the T cells, the old ones die off, which then stimulates the formation of younger immune cells. So again, you can see how healthy lifestyle kind of, you could say, quote unquote, rejuvenates the cells of your body. good nutrition also would have a similar effect. So no drug replaces that. So eating healthy, plant-based diet, and then exercising is really the way to go. Great question. Thank you. This is one for you, Bailey. So question is, should we wear masks during exercise? I think places like Good Life and Fit for Less require people to wear masks. So what are you thinking? So someone's going out there for a run. Should they put the mask on?
Yeah, so I'm actually a member of Fit for Less, and they do require you to wear a mask initially when you're going into the gym. But as soon as you are going to work out, so you're on the treadmill and you've turned it on, you can they actually want you to take your mask off. It's not, I wouldn't say that it's the best decision to wear a mask while exerting so much and breathing so heavily. So even Good Life and Fit for Less, they're definitely okay with you taking your mask off while you're exercising. Their requirement is just between equipment and as you're going to clean off the stations that you put the mask on to prevent more germs from spreading everywhere.
Yeah, I fully agree with Bailey here. During exercise, I don't think it's really as necessary. If you're going outside for a run, for example, you're not going to be near people, right? Generally,
Mm-hmm.
the possibility of transmitting the virus is actually quite low. So
Mm-hmm.
great, Bailey. Thank you. Maybe both you and I can tackle this one. What's the best exercise for boosting immune system? So if you look at the studies, a lot of studies are done on cardio activities. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so we can definitely say for sure that cardio activities helps really stimulate the immune system, like we discussed today.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would say is that probably the best exercise right now for people is just the one that you can stick with, because I think
Mm-hmm.
that habit is more important. Bailey, what do you think?
Yeah, there's definitely, like we saw, if you're overexerting yourself, it can do you more harm than good to an extreme sense. So if exercise is a newer thing, I would not recommend doing a full-on HIIT workout. That might take it to a new level for you and be too much. I've overdone it with exercise and it's actually made me sick before. So make sure that you're knowing what your body can do. But like you said, Dr. Cho, I definitely think that the cardio is beneficial, but specifically if you're outside, getting that fresh air as you're running or jogging or whatever it is, it gets the double whammy benefit of the fresh air.
Yes, that's an excellent point. So thank you for the question. Bina has a question here. Hi, Bina. It's good to see you again. Is it safe to go out? Is it safe to go out for older adults for a walk and to do some groceries? Um, well, groceries is a necessity, so I would definitely recommend doing that. But how about walking? I think walking is good. So I think I would encourage that.
Mhm.
What do you think, Bailey?
Yeah, especially like I said, the fresh air is, you could do a whole nother talk on air and how important it is for our immunity as well. So, maintain that distance, but I definitely recommend getting out for a walk if possible.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, great. So thank you, Vina, for the question. Let's see here. Yeah, a few more. So Carol, hi Carol, is asking the question: is rebounding just aerobic exercise, or does it also cross into other types of exercise? So I'll leave that for you, Bailey. Do you know rebound?
Rebounding.
Like the trampoline. You know the trampoline.
Uh,
You familiar? Rebounding. I'm not too familiar with rebounding myself, but my understanding is that trampoline activity is actually it's a lot. It's emphasis on cardio. Okay. If you want to develop your muscles, doing some of the stuff that Bailey recommended would be better, like the kind of your standard strength training activities. So I'm sorry, Carol, we don't have too good of an answer for you on that one, but my understanding is that it's mostly aerobic.
yeah, I don't think I would recommend using a trampoline for weight training unless you're using it to have an unstable surface as you're using your weights, which will actually enhance your strength training exercises. But bouncing while doing specifically strength probably isn't a good idea.
All right. What's the best exercise during winter if you don't have a gym membership? Yeah, Bailey, what do you think? No membership, but it's winter. So what are some ideas you can throw out there?
It definitely depends on how much space you have in your home. But anything that you can enjoy. So, say if you don't have a treadmill and you don't have a bike or anything like that, uh, something I could recommend definitely then would be a strength training schedule. There's things around your house that you can use to do that. Otherwise, either you can do more calisthenic type workouts where you're doing lunges, you're doing squats, you're doing those consistent body weight exercises. Your body can do a lot and strengthen itself within itself if you're just activating the right muscles and you're really thinking about it. So I don't even think you necessarily need a gym membership. So yeah, specifically for the winter, just whatever you can accomplish with the things you have in the house. But strength is an easy one to do, and the high intensity interval training, you can also modify that so it's not necessarily as high of an intensity training. You can make that into just interval training with body weight cardio.
Yeah, excellent suggestions. So there's a lot that you can do with calisthenics. Bailey mentioned calisthenics, which is just you're using your own body weight. And so there's a lot that you can do with that. And there's a lot of great resources on the internet as well
Hmm.
with that. So yes, great question. We take our last question here. What is your recommendation for parents with a teenager who's struggling with weight problems? So I'm not sure if this is referring to the teenager or if this is referring to the parent. But I mean,
I think it's the teenager.
teenager. Okay.
I don't know.
This kind of goes a little bit outside the scope of this presentation, but just kind of very briefly, since we do deal with a lot of weight issues in our clinic. Um, so, when it comes to excess weight, first of all, you want to rule out any disease pathology, so thyroid issues or anything like that, which might be causing people to keep weight without you trying. Okay, so you want to definitely see a doctor to make sure there's no underlying disease condition. If it's just a matter of lifestyle, then a few things here. First, whole foods, plant-based diet is the first thing. So we recommend eating mostly home cooked food from plants. They put usually for our weight loss patients, we put them on 2 meals a day, breakfast and lunch, with zero snacking between. So absolutely no snacking. I don't care if it's nuts, fruits, seeds, it doesn't matter. Nothing between meals. Mostly only water. Okay, and the 2 meals would be breakfast and lunch,
Mhm.
separated by 5 to 6 hours. That's what we do. So we do that, and then skip the third meal if possible. Okay, or just keep it very light. And then of course other behaviors like exercising. Okay, so 150 minutes. So if you saw one of the slides that Bailey showed, she showed 150 minutes to 300 minutes. The Canadian Physical Activity Guidelines recommends about 150 minutes per week. Okay. For younger people, it's a little bit higher, but in any case, meeting those guidelines is going to be critical. And then sleeping and things like that. So this is what we would recommend. I know it's a little bit basic, a little bit kind of brief, but what we would recommend as a good starting point. We put pretty much most of our weight loss patients on the same program. Whole foods, plant-based diet, 2 meals a day, no snacking, breakfast, lunch, skip dinner, and then encourage them to exercise. And we see good results with that.
Mhm.
Bailey, do you have anything to add?
No, not really. Just that there's this saying that says abs are made in the kitchen. And just to emphasize what Dr. Cho has just said with weight loss, exercise is definitely a supplementary thing. But a full on 30-minute workout may only burn about 500 calories max. No, that's even high, like 300. um, so we have much more control over what we put into our body than we do how it's expended. So yeah, just emphasizing what Dr. Cho just said there is a whole food, plant-based diet and all the other suggestions.
Yeah. So and again, we want to emphasize that underlying health conditions should be ruled out as well. Okay, so all right. So thank you everyone for coming to the webinar. We hope that you learned something. We hope that you share with those you love and your friends. It will be on our as we mentioned, it's recorded in live stream. So the recording will be on our Facebook page and also on our YouTube channel. So you can go there and you can share this with other people that you know to encourage them to exercise. Okay, even during the pandemic, you should still be exercising. Okay. Also, we keep on doing webinars. So I know many of you are on our list, the email list. So continue to look out for those. We have other great topics coming up. All right. So thank you everyone for coming. We hope to see you again. And yeah, God bless. Bye now.